SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. Well, thank you. Welcome again to our program, and yours truly here at Controls, fighting hoarseness and a bit of laryngitis. So if you hear me fading in and out, that's what we did, doing our duty at Indigenous Day in Tulsa, which is a third annual celebration, and it was a heck of a day. Went out there to talk and to folks and get some sounds of the celebration. And I don't know, it must have been something in the air because my voice had faded and disappeared. And I had 2 digital tape decks that conked out on me also. So what we do have, though, are some comments from a couple of folks about the celebration, why it's so important. We spoke with one of the coordinators there, and of course our own Chief James Floyd. So why don't we just start with that, and I'll rest my voice while I can, and we'll get to you. In our second segment, we'll be speaking with a couple of folks who are currently spending time at the Circle Cinema in Tulsa. The film programmer Chuck Foxon and the native and independent filmmaker Black Horse Lowe, who's going to be discussing his latest production there, and we'll find out what that one's all about. So let's start here with Indigenous Day. Okay, we're here at the second?
Third annual, yes.
Third annual
Yes.
Native American Day here in Tulsa. Now, with this repetition, what kind of sign does it say for the commitment of the city of Tulsa?
Just as we introduced the mayor, we thanked him and the city council for their progressive and inclusion leadership. I've been on the Greater Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission for 10 years, and we have made efforts and approached previous leadership in Tulsa about a Native American Day, not to do away with any other celebrations, but just to recognize the Native American Day. And as Mayor Bynum said, he wasn't in office a month, and they said, hey, we want to celebrate the proud history, culture, and traditions of the Native people, and so they've been behind it. And so our first celebration was really, we had about a month to get ready for it, so a really small one, and then last year it really expanded, and this by far is our biggest and best. And so it's a joy and a blessing to see all the young people here. We have about 15 school districts represented from the Greater Tulsa area and northeastern Oklahoma, students that have been here watching the presentations, the speeches of the Native leaders, and they'll also be in the parade. And so that's one of our biggest goals, as well, is to pass that on so we can have our young people experience this and embrace it. So as they get older, they'll want to make this an annual tradition as well.
The past several years have seen a growth in the positive side of the relationship between the city of Tulsa and tribes in the neighborhood, particularly the Mvskoke, Creek, Cherokee, and Osage.
Yes.
This is such a wonderful outward sign. How would you measure the progress that the two governments are making?
There's strength in numbers, and there's strength in working together and collaborating. And so the progress has been significant in recent years. Just an example, before the gathering place was opened, one of the largest tourist attractions, not just in Oklahoma, but the entire nation. People are coming from all over the world to come visit that. And the city of Tulsa, they said, hey, we're on Mvskoke Creek Nation land. We need to have a blessing here. So a month before it was open, they reached out to the Greater Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission. We reached out to Chief Floyd and some of the elders with the nation, go out and bless the land there at the gathering place before it was open. So these partnerships only make the city of Tulsa stronger, only make all the Native nations represented stronger as well, because that's our commission. We're a variety of tribal members that come together and work together, and so this is obviously going to be the highlight of the year for us. Now, I will say next month in November, during Native American Heritage Month, we've always had what we call the Dream Keeper Awards, where we have multiple categories where we honor natives for their career and service in different categories, whether it be education, business, veterans, and those kinds of things. But this celebration has become our focus point. And then tomorrow we'll start working on the Dream Keepers Award. But yes, as you said, that partnership, it really is beneficial to all of us.
Now, many of the speakers have mentioned the need for Oklahomans in general to recognize that the tribes and the native culture are still here. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree as well, because for those new to Oklahoma or non-natives, they might just see some casinos that are open and those kinds of things, or maybe some Indian healthcare facilities, those kinds of things, but they don't know all-encompassing what the tribes do for their native nations, but not just for their native nation, but also for the state of Oklahoma. Pumping millions and millions of dollars into the state economy, providing jobs for natives and non-natives, and so it is a win-win situation there. And so, we had that speaker here with Illumina Native saying, "Raise that hand, we're all one people," and I think you see that here, where the tribal leaders embracing each other with what they have had to say to the crowd and to the young people. And so I think that's something that we can continue to grow on and build, is not only the history of each tribe and native nation, but also what each tribe and native nation does for the state, and all the benefits and offerings out there.
Finally, what is it that you hope that people will take with them as they leave today, both native and non-native?
Yes. The enthusiasm and the passion here today is special. And you would love for everyone to be able to bundle that up and have that same enthusiasm and passion tomorrow, the next day, and 365 days a year. And so that's what I would like for them to take with them, is those students that are here, to embrace that culture, their heritage, their passion, and to keep learning and researching about it, and to reach out to some of the elders, and to become a part in some of our tribal princesses. They were in high school and middle school and elementary school, some of the young ambassadors, and so to take it to their schools with their Native American groups and their Native American student associations, so they can be recognized at their school districts and at their school parades and different things like that. And so we talked about how you can't learn what they're learning and experience today. You can't experience in a classroom. You can't experience in a textbook. You can't see on a smart board or on a Chromebook. And so just to build on that, and to carry on this positive atmosphere, enthusiasm, and passion as we leave here today.
Now, Chief Floyd, this is the third Native American Day here in Tulsa. How important is that?
Well, each year it's grown in size, and so the third year I think we're very blessed to have so many people here today. The importance is that it brings people together. and it gives them a time to recognize I think the cultures of each one of the tribes, the successes of each one of the tribes, and serves as a strength to especially the young people that attend, that they can identify with the events and the people that are here, and hopefully that will be a good role model for them as they go forward in their own lives. I was really impressed to see all the young children here today from schools, and proud of their own heritage, proud of their tribes, and to me that's extremely important. And I think if this event can just accomplish those things and strengthen our youth, then I think we're in great shape. So I'm very proud of everybody today.
It seems like the relationship between our tribe and the city is growing stronger, a little smoother, more eyeball-to-eyeball discussion. What do you think of that?
Well, Mayor Bynum has done, I think, a very commendable job in reaching out to the tribes, recognizing that the city of Tulsa is really a tribal-driven economy. And I think that the relationship that we've had has been very supportive each way. It's nice when we can just call him up and come to his office if we need to, or him come to Okmulgee and meet with us. There's the city council as well being involved with us and being supportive of each other and the goals of the city of Tulsa. It's nice to be included in future planning of the city of Tulsa. So in that regard, the relationship's been very beneficial for the nation.
You're looking at the end of your term as principal chief. Is there something you want to see or something you feel needs to be accomplished before you leave office in working with Tulsa?
Well, I'd like to be able to better kind of memorialize our relationship. I think that we're in great shape with Mayor Bynum, and I just wanted to make sure that the relationship gets institutionalized in a way that it carries beyond his terms in office. And I know he's doing a great job, but he chooses to go somewhere else, and we have to start over. And I'd really like to have a good foundation with the city of Tulsa so that they recognize the importance of the Mvskoke Creek Nation and the relationship, and to make sure that continues in everything that's done in the city. Because we're being included in a lot of different things in the city, and I'm glad that we are.
Okay. Any last thoughts as you look toward the end of your term?
Well, at the end of my term, and look at the things that I'd really like to get done that still need a lot of work. It's keeping me real busy and motivated, so we're going to keep trying until the very end. But, the window is starting to get smaller, so we have to try harder.
Okay, getting anxious to see that happen?
Well, thanks, I am, and ready to go on to the next stage of my life and see what that brings.
Tulsa, are you ready for a double dose of Tulsa Oilers hockey this weekend at the BOK Center? The puck drops on Saturday at 7:05 and again on Sunday at 4:05 when the Oilers take on the Rapid City Rush. Stick around on Sunday after the game and skate with the players. Buy your tickets today by phone or text at 918-632-7825 or online at TulsaOilers.com. That's TulsaOilers.com. Plan a weekend of fun with the Tulsa Oilers.
It's a little something for you hockey fans out there. You might want to check it out. Okay, as you heard at the end of my last piece there, my old voice was fading quickly, so that's why there's not a whole lot more to that piece. I decided to get in out of the wind and the cold and preserve what I had left so I could be here this morning. Okay, also here this morning, we have our second segment coming up. We're going to be talking about Circle Cinema's latest presentation of a Native American film. We have a couple of gentlemen here in the studio. Chuck Foxon, who is the film programmer for the Circle Cinema, and Black Horse Lowe, who is the filmmaker who brought this production. He's a filmmaker, of course, and Tulsa Artist Fellow. Welcome, gentlemen. We appreciate you making time and trucking down a dear old Okmulgee here.
Hey, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, let's make sure we got all these microphones working correctly. Now, we have, let me start with you, Chuck. We've seen the Circle Cinema do a lot of these kinds of things in the past. almost a home and a place on the circuit for Native American independent film productions. A lot of Native films that don't get much chance to get screened anywhere else. So let me start there with you and find out what's the motivation for Circle Cinema to include these kinds of productions.
All right, am I on here? All right, there we go. I'm the film programmer. My name's Chuck Fox. I'm film programmer at Circle Cinema. And one of our goals that we go for is just trying to find independent film and great original stories. And being in Oklahoma, we have some great Oklahoma native filmmakers, and so it just is a natural fit for us. This program actually that we have right here, the Native Spotlight, was we show Native films through regular runs throughout the year. This program was more to kind of like highlight and celebrate films a little bit more, bring out a director, and have the filmmakers here to talk about their film and go into a little more depth into them.
The Circle Cinema was one of my favorite spots as a child, and we were chatting about that a little earlier out in the lounge. And I remember as a little kid, it was on the north side of Tulsa. It's kind of a middle to low income area, and the theater had really started to show its age.
Right.
But it's had an amazing renaissance and become an important part of the arts community here in Tulsa, I'd say. What was that climb like? I mean, making those changes and doing what you do now.
Well, the theater was founded. The theater was built in 1928, and it was like the first theater outside of downtown. So it was never one of the big palaces of Tulsa, which Tulsa had some great 1,500 seat theaters with balconies and all that. The Circle was never that. It was always a smaller neighborhood place and, one screen. There's lots of, we were talking about, there was lots of pictures from kids coming in and, bicycles lined up down the street. And a lot of people come in and say they spent all day watching films at the theater, for 25 cents or something like that. So the history of it started in 1928, and then to the current day, now we have started with one screen. Now we have 4 screens, and an all new renovation. We actually have a lobby space out in the theater, which we use for events and gallery space and stuff like that. There's tons of events always going on and super busy constantly.
Did you ever go to a movie when you were a child? Did you go to that theater?
I moved to Tulsa in about 2005, so I never got to go.
So I'd say you missed that, but it was quite a deal for us. I remember.
We did. So I grew up in Holdenville, so we had a small little theater there. So I got to see a bunch of films from we had in our theater. I don't know if there's a theater there anymore, but in the Holdenville theater, I got to see a lot of film there. Gosh,
it's amazing that people have such strong memories of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I even remember an old guy who had a tamale stand outside the front door. Cool. Tamales, 5-10 cents a piece, something like that. Anyway, enough of that reminiscing. Let's get on now. One of the things that you've brought, what will be airing soon, is a piece by our other guest here, Mr. Black Horse Low. And I'm going to let you pronounce the name of the film first so I don't screw it up and offend a lot of different listeners.
Okay, yeah. The title is Fuckery, F-U-K-R-Y. You can say Fukri or Fakrai, so, any which way, but Fuckery is usually the way to say it, but it's a nonsensical title that me and my co-writer originally came up with back in 2010, so... And then I never heard of a Native film or a film called that at all. So it's like, let's go with that one and just kind of shock everybody.
Yeah. Usually it's like where the spirit dwells. Or
yeah, I mean, I could have made something up about it. Say it was a Navajo word, but it's just, it is the
Dene
word.
warriors. And you are Dene, by the way.
Oh, yes, I am originally from New Mexico, Four Corners area. Yeah, so I'm living out here in Tulsa right now with doing the Tulsa Artist Fellowship. Filmmaking and writing is basically my practice.
Mm-hmm. So did you actually start producing these films when you were at Navajo?
Oh yeah, actually I started probably back in 1998. Just my mom was a bilingual educator, so she had all the the latest VHS cameras and editing equipment at that time. So I just started.
Wow.
Me, my brother, and sister would just remake scenes from like Indiana Jones or The Road Warrior, and just recreate those scenes, shoot it, and put it together, and we just kept going from there. Or I kept going from there. And then next thing I realized is pretty girls are attracted to making films, and it's like, all right, this is definitely what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue with.
Yeah.
Did you ever do The Little Bighorn by any chance?
Oh, no. We never referenced any sort of Native American stuff. Like, we were just a generation of, my sister and I and my brother grew up on The Exorcist and Star Wars and, The Road Warrior and Conan the Barbarian and films like that. So we knew our native culture, but it was never a part of our cinematic...
here's a question that has absolutely nothing to do with our discussion here. The Dene version of Star Wars.
Oh yeah, well I know they did they did a dubbed version of that. My friend Manny Wheeler out of Navajo Nation Museum went and dubbed that, and he also did Finding Nemo, and I understand they might be doing one of Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns next. I think it might be for a few dollars more for a fistful of dollars, all in Navajo, from what I understand. So it'd be a cool thing to actually see. I would like to see The Godfather in Navajo. That's my big goal. That or Taxi Driver.
Yeah, that was good. But I have a copy of that film.
Oh, cool.
It is really weird to see Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yate.
Yeah, most definitely. It's just really surreal.
Okay, well, let's get around to fuckery here. Now, tell me, first of all, give me a capsule of what this film's all about.
Well, basically, it's my friend Matt Galinda, who also did the music for it, called it a doom rom-com. It was a doom romance comedy. So it's about a character named Chinyazi who falls in love with 3 women simultaneously, and it all falls apart on him. Ooh. Yeah, so that old tale. But we shot it in Albuquerque last December and early part of January. And I just used that as my project here during my time at the Tulsa Artist Fellowship. Basically, it's all native cast, along with a couple of Latina actors and Latina direct actors as well too. So it was just good. All the brown people in Albuquerque came out for this one, and just getting ready to show it after a long journey of shooting to doing post-production and raising financing to get everything done.
Now, this is a contemporary doom rom-com. Right?
Yeah, most definitely. Definitely more of the subculture of Albuquerque, skateboarders, punk, metal, and just psychedelics. So it's just not the usual native film where you're talking about, social issues or any of the big things that are going right now. I'm going more for comedy and ridiculousness with this one. I just want to make people laugh as opposed to, having to stand on my soapbox and let them know of all the triumphs and tragedies of the native people.
Now, this is kind of breaking out of the box, getting away from the old stereotypes. The beads and buckskin, feathers and horses and that kind of thing. Now, I presume this was a conscious effort to break those stereotypes.
I don't think we had the stereotypes in mind. At the time, me, my co-writer, Lydell Mitchell, and my other writer, Sally Kiwi-Yash, when we wrote this film, it was just like, we just want to make what we thought was funny to us, and then taking a lot of inspiration from those films that we grew up on and that we liked, the screwball romantic comedies, Three Stooges, all these romance comedies from the 80s that we kind of dug, and kind of just combined that with our own tastes and maybe a bit of our native culture, but it's not so much. I feel that with native films, I don't have to over-represent myself. I already am a Navajo filmmaker, native filmmaker, so I don't need to put forward that extra effort to let everyone know that. It's just like the story will be it, and my voice making it will make it native. I don't have to do anything else extra to add to it. I don't have to add any dream catchers or flute sounds or, have some elder come in and give you a piece of sage advice. It's just like, I want to show the messiness of what it is to be a human being, but also the messiness of being native on top of that but also the fun.
Now, Chuck, the film has a interesting appeal. I mean, it's as Black Horse has said, it was meant to give us a look at native life that is never portrayed in English. Now, in selecting to screen this film, what went through your mind? What appealed to you?
Well, I've known Black Horse. We've worked on films. We've worked on a film, I think, 2005, 2006. And, I've seen his films through his career. We actually kicked off the Native Spotlight program with Black Horse's film.
It's a second feature called Chasing the Light.
Chasing the Light, and that was the kickoff to the this whole series. So it's kind of bookending it right now. But for our whole mission of this program was to show films by Native American people, and he just represented how he approaches filmmaking, and that's better than what I could say. That's exactly what we were going for.
Now, you mentioned Native Spotlight series. Is that what it is, so to speak?
Right,
you just capsulized it.
Quarterly series that we do at Circle, yeah. And we show Native film in general through the year, but these are just a spotlight, and Black Horse will be here, and then we'll do some reception stuff out in the lobby. But the whole program is to bring in the films with the director and kind of have instead of these stories coming from just to be honest, a white person telling the story. It's about natives telling native stories.
Mm-hmm. Last time I was there, it was for Miko.
Oh, right.
And I looked, out over the audience, and it's 90% brown faces. And I'm thinking, yes.
Yeah.
What kind of feedback do you get from audiences, both native and non-native?
People in general love it. Across the board, people love it. I hear people, because working at theater, you do everything. You sell popcorn and you help pick the film. So I hear people walking up buying tickets. Native people saying, "Thank you guys so much for showing these films, and no one else is doing this." So that always feels really nice, which gives you the purpose to even do these kind of films.
I think I've bought popcorn from you once. The emergence of this talent and these productions is really given the Native American audience is just a real place, a wonderful place to turn. For me, I think the spotlight first thought of was Smoke Signals, and I thought, holy cow! You're right. There is all of these stories, and every one of these situations depicted in that film. We live, whether it's it's fighting over fry bread, or pointing with your lips, or teasing each other about watching Dances with Wolves 10 times. Now, what do you think, Black Horse? Have we really turned a corner there? What is it there that you see?
I think it's a great thing, especially with other filmmakers of course, Sterling Harjo, who's Oklahoma native, and then other filmmakers like Sydney Freeland, who's also Navajo, but she's directing TV right now, and then Sterling, of course, is got his own shows and his own feature films, and there's Taika Waititi out there, who's Maori, not native U.S., but he's a native who's producing major Hollywood productions out there. He's got Jojo Rabbit coming up soon, so it's just there's a huge wellspring of native filmmaker and talent out there too. It's it finally seems that we have the numbers and the education and the technical skill in order to execute all these films and get them in the right way and get them, distributed and shown, especially in places like Circle, where we actually have these avenues of, getting an audience out there to see it. Because beforehand, when I was first starting out, there wasn't too much of there wasn't a lot of places to show your films there, or groups of people other natives to go make films with. You kind of just had to build it yourself. So now it's actually nice to see that there's actually a good portion of people, because of people like Bird Running Water, the Sundance Native Initiative, or these other places that really kind of try to push the native voice and native stories forward. So it's a nice place to actually be making movies right now. I wish there's more money involved with it, but it's just I think that's the thing with most things. But there is a good wellspring of filmmakers out there, and there's still still many more coming up, and who have got just stronger, weirder voices, and just like it's many diverse ways of still telling stories, from traditional stuff to out there science fiction films to like more stuff dealing with the LGBTQ themes and storylines. So it's just like it's just Native film is just not one thing. There's many diverse voices that go along with it and many different experiences with it.
Now, let me back up just a touch here. What was it? Taika Waititi?
Taika Waititi, yes.
Taika Waititi. Isn't he the guy that came up with or produces the What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh, yes, he is.
God, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, it's killer. It's not for the faint of heart.
Oh, no, not at all, not at all. So.
If you want to deal with modern-day vampires. But that's the kind of talent and connections you're making now, and I think successes too.
Oh, most definitely. I think just having our films shown at a theater and just bringing an audience, that's already success alone. So it's just like, and people respond to them. And with the great things with social media is you actually have a place to actually seek them out and find them and see where they're screening at. And then because of the platforms of like Amazon and say Netflix and these other services, we get to actually show them so people could see them. Because without this, we'd still just be on VHS or just trying to trade DVDs.
Yeah. Now check who's showing up for these films. When I was there for Miko, it was obviously, I think, kind of a stacked deck, but it was a full house. I mean, packed all the way. Is that true for most Native films and brown faces? But who is showing up?
Well, since the objective is to kind of spotlight these films, they do get promoted differently and kind of highlighted in that sense. So they the promotion goes out there wide, so it casts a wide net of who's actually coming. It's nice to see lots of Native American people coming. That's always great to see, but it is it's a mixed bag of people. I think in general, what we do at the Circle is show interesting films, so our clientele likes to see interesting films. So it's a mix of people that get to come.
While we're there, why do you think it is important for Tulsa, Oklahoma, to have these films and show up and watch them, and in a sense become part of that world? Why is it so important to you?
I mean, for us at Circle, we try to make the Circle a place for everybody to come. We want every group, every individual that wants to tell a story, for the most part, if it's not hateful, then we want to show it. And so growing those audiences, growing the Native audience is it's very important to us, because we want them to have a place where they can come see films made by Native Americans and told by Native Americans. And making the place a place for everybody is the most important thing. A community cinema.
Let me take that one step further and throw this out to both of you. Then, right now we're living in a world where most Americans are still pretty ignorant about Native peoples, and let's not cast dispersions, but that's just the way things are. Even here in this town, I've had people, kind of grouse and grumble about Native issues and why do they get free medical care, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's in the treaties, man. It's in the law. And so with these opportunities there, what are we doing then to help educate our neighbors? What are your thoughts? Is it effective? Do we need to add more? Do we need to back off or be a little more subtle? We've got to compete with, all of the explosions and bang bang and beautiful women and fancy car kind of movies. But, are we making any progress? Do we? I know that's several questions I'm throwing out at you, but in the educational process, I think.
I think for the stories that are being told, a lot of our filmmakers have a lot of integrity, and there's a lot of our stories come from our traditions and also our family experiences too. So there's a lot of truth and a lot of sincerity that comes along with our stories, which a lot of Hollywood films don't have. They're just mostly out there to make money and just rehash already stories. A lot of stories that have been told and will be told over and over again till they can, get as much money out of them as possible. But when it comes to independent film, especially Native film, there's very specific voices, a very specific place, and a very specific reason reason why a good portion of these stories told. Not mine specifically. I just want to make ridiculousness, but with there's a lot of there's a lot of forethought with it, and with whereas most native films is just like, let's make money, and that's the only thing to it. Whereas ours is like, hopefully there's a bit more substance to it, and something has a bit more longevity. So that way, how you can really tell whether the film's good or not. It's like, well, look 40 years ahead from now, and like, is that movie still around? Is it still making an impact? Do you still reference portions of it? Like, you want to make movies that have that lasting quality. Like for me, like movies like Apocalypse Now or like The Godfather, or even like Ben-Hur still has a weird way, like still has a longevity to it, or still finds themes that you can connect to and grow with it. So like that's a good movie to me. Whereas like most of the stuff that's out now, it's just like enough for you to kind of just get you out of your mindset for a little while, then return to your day. You kind of just like easily see it and easily forget it.
So our mission statement at Circle Cinema is community consciousness through film, which is which represents itself in the films that we choose, and the community partners that we bring in. So we'll bring in, we'll see something that we think's important in a story that needs to be told, and we'll go out and connect with nonprofits, community groups, and help them help us represent that interest or that cause, and help educate the community in our neighborhood.
We've heard the word ridiculous a couple of times, and what came to my mind was that Adam Sandler atrocity, Ridiculous Six.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think about junk like that still being produced, and what does it do to us? I mean, we were the butt of all the jokes essentially, but what do you guys think about that kind of stuff?
I don't take it too personally, and it's just it's a part of the world. It's the way Hollywood and most of the world sees us, and natives they even recognize that we're still here. Most of them are pretty still surprised that oh, you guys are making movies. Like, what tribe are you? So it's always those types of questions. And like, is Black Horse your actual name? It's like, yeah. Well, what's your actual name? And it's just like like little things like that. So it's just like by this point I'm so desensitized and used to it. It's just a part of the world. But also for me, it fuels that need to tell stories that are actually genuine and are from specifically a place. And for me, it's just like a ridiculous place that I'm coming out of, but it's just like that's the reason why I tell those stories, just kind of counteract what their narratives that they're trying to put out there. Well, I'm trying to create my own narrative, and the actual truthful narrative, what it is to actually be a Native American person growing up in the 21st century.
And I'm not really sure where those stories come from, and where the idea of a film like that would come from. Speaking of that Adam Sandler one, it doesn't really have any authenticity to it. It's it's a shallow, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where that comes from. I feel like, I am a fair-skinned person, so coming from my perspective, I feel like there's a little bit more consciousness of those things, but there's somewhere where those films keep coming from, and I don't know where that is. Hopefully, that keeps getting thinned down, or eventually gone. Where I think some of the bigger studios, we talked about Taika a minute ago. He did Thor. Hopefully they're starting to be a little more like involved, like allowing of native and indigenous filmmakers to come tell even bigger films.
Was Thor insensitive to Vikings?
You don't I didn't feel it.
I didn't see that protest. So. Oh, okay. But I think even like growing up, even like natives recognizing that ridiculousness and just being able to laugh at it and brush it off, just like that's been our greatest strength throughout all our years, just to be able to laugh at all this stuff. Like, this is just stupid. So that's what they think, but we know what we are. We know who we are, know where we come from, and we know what we represent. Right. Now, let me focus on the talent in front of the camera for a few minutes here. We're, of course, names that come to mind: Wes Studi and Adam Beach and Tantu Cardinal and Irene Bedard and a lot of our own people now taking on these roles, although I didn't think much of Pocahontas, some say. But that adds obviously to the authenticity, but
I think what I'm maybe asking is the industry now taking, is it going to the point where they recognize that they can't stick Victor Mature in brown face and get away with it anymore? They've got talented people. I mean, Wes Studi is probably, he was at the Circle, by the way, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I talked to him. But Wes has probably portrayed about 88% of all of our ancestors at one time or another, and just an amazing job. But what do you think of that, let's call it evolution, of the talent out there portraying ourselves?
Well, I think definitely the talent the pool has gotten larger because of all the earlier filmmakers out there who made their work. So just there's a lot more talent, like Morningstar Angeline, Cody Lightning, who was in Smoke Signals, Kiowa Gordon. There's there's so many more actors and actresses out there that you can work with and who know their skill pretty well. So it's nice to have that and not to necessarily depend on that generation of Wes Studi, Irene Bedard, because they're much respect, but they're up in the age now. So now we need to really kind of start training these people who are in their earlier ages, so that way they can start getting ready for these bigger films. And a lot of them have. So that's why you have the stars that you do have right now. And it's just nice to see that they keep on doubling and they're making their they're actually getting casted in major roles in like films and also TV stuff. So they're not actually they're actually able to spread out their talents in many different places. So it's always nice to see that those numbers are just getting bigger and bigger, and gives me the more opportunity to work with more filmmakers or more actors and actresses who have come from my same background. But also that's speaking in terms of general native film. With my films, I usually try to cast all Navajo, because a lot of the themes and the languages usually spoken, like early short film mine, Masane, was all spoken in Navajo language and it was all Navajo cast. I couldn't, it would have been nice to have gotten somebody who's like, say, Oglala or something like that to cast it, but they don't have that same cadence in their voice. They don't have that same way of carrying themselves within the landscape. So it's this very specific thing that I'm going for. So whenever I have the opportunity or the story is about it, I like to keep it specifically Navajo. But in terms of Fuckery, that was just who was the best I could get and who's the funniest person I could get. So it's all specific to whatever the project is and what it calls for.
Well, you mentioned the languages there, and I'm a beginner student of Mvskoke, and learning of the intonations and inflections, the correct way to pronounce a word and make it sound, is so important, because if you get it wrong,
you're way off. Yeah, exactly.
You make somebody mad. And
you might be cursing them out, not even know it.
But for Native people, it obviously makes us proud to hear that. But do you think non-Native audiences are picking up on that kind of thing and listening to the sound of these languages and perhaps appreciating it, or still kind of bedazzled?
I mean, I'm not really sure. It's for myself, I always like hearing these people, news stories or whatever of language being preserved and people paying attention to it. I hope it's something that stays a focus, because a lot of culture is captured in language. So I'm not really sure.
Well, let me toss this one out. The honored and reviled producer of Apocalypto, Mel Gibson, he produced that whole film in Mayan language, is it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and no English, no nothing there. It was just all that language, and you heard it, and people handling it. For me, I kind of loved it and hated it at the same time. It showed some of the problems and cruelties that all people are capable of, but it also showed such bravery and courage too. Like watching that young woman, give birth to this little boy or this little baby in a pool of water, and remaining strong and supportive. But then, right at the end, I think, where they've just done this incredible chase through the jungle, over waterfalls and poisonous snakes and jaguars and everything else. And two guys are left chasing the hero, and they ran out onto the beach and just freeze. And you think, oh my God, what else can they run into? And you think, oh no, it's got to be. Oh, please don't let it. And sure enough, it pans around, and there's those Spanish galleons out there. You're like, oh my God, how bad is this going to get? We know how bad it's going to get.
Yeah.
That's the way it struck me. Now, watching two different perspectives here in front of me, what do you guys think of something like that?
No, I have the same feelings. I loved and hated that movie. Somewhat for similar reasons, but I liked it once the chase got started. For that, it was just pure action movie to me. So other than that,
yeah.
But speaking of the Mayan language, I'm sure if actual Mayan speakers could hear how their language being spoken, I'm sure they just picked it apart and that's not how you say it. That's not how you inflect it. So that's what I'm thinking behind it. Because every time I watch a film where a Navajo character is portrayed and they have to speak the language, they just completely butcher it, West Studi included, and even Russell Means. I'm just what the hell is he saying? He doesn't even sound like Navajo.
Get back to Pine Ridge.
Yeah, get back to Pine Ridge or wherever, or go back to Tahlequah. It's just but language is such a specific thing and a very precious thing too. You really want to pay it as much respect and honor, but with the Apocalypto, it's just another white dude taking our stories and just making it his own. But he did it in a cool way, so you can't hate him for that. And I'm a fan of Road Warrior, so it's just all right, you do what you gotta do, Mel. So
Yeah. Chuck, any thoughts there?
I think my approach towards those things is, if I see a film that even graces upon some kind of a culture or anybody's particular culture, I immediately look to see who's directing, who wrote the story, and do I are those respectable filmmakers? Are they, who are they? I start looking into a little bit more. I don't know the subtleties of a lot of people's culture, but I want to make sure that if we're showing it at Circle, that it is, coming from an authentic place. When it's not, it's a huge turnoff. It's just move on to the next film. I can't watch it.
Yeah. I'm not going to let you go on this one yet. But that last scene I described when they were on the beach and you see the Spanish boats coming in, how did you feel when you saw that?
Man, to tell you the truth, which film?
Apocalypto?
Oh, Apocalypto. Oh, man.
I'll tell you the real reason I hated that movie is because Rudy Youngblood, the guy who's the lead actor, used to hit on my girlfriend when we were working on the zombie movie, so I've got an extra, bone to pick with that guy, so I guess I said I hate that movie.
All right, well, I got a couple of those too. I ain't that particularly fond of Russell Means.
Exactly.
Yeah, for much of the same reason. But where do we go from here now? First of all, you, Black Horse, presume the fuckery is just not getting out, and you're going to work it and present it.
Almost definitely. We're screening next Wednesday at Toronto at Imaginative Film Festival. It's their 20th anniversary, so this will be my third feature that I play there. And then we'll be playing on November 7th at Circle Cinema. But I'm also a part of a program films as well too here in Tulsa, along with the fellowship with Atomic Culture with his Matt and Melinda Galindo. And we have a film series called Cine Telechi, and we'll be screening a film called Empty Metal Thursday night at the Admiral Drive-In. So after my movie on Wednesday, come out to the drive-in on Thursday and come check out some amazing indigenous films. This one's made by Adam Khalil, who's it's his first feature film, but we also have a music video by Laura Ortman that was directed by Nanaba Becker, a Navajo filmmaker. Laura's a Apache violinist, so her music video played the Whitney Biannual this past year, so very prestigious films. And then also some other films by Crystal Campbell, and then also another music video by Steffa. So we'll have that the day following, along with my screening the day before. So be sure to come and check it all out.
Okay. Oh, by the way, the Admiral Twin is owned by a creek.
Oh, really? Awesome. Yeah. I guess we should start getting the fees for free then.
No fry bread or soft
no, nothing. Yeah.
Come on, get some Indian stuff.
Get some Indian stuff out there.
Besides Kool-Aid. What's on the agenda then for the Circle Cinema? Will you be continuing this series? What's next?
There's let's see, November, we have Black Horse's film, also a Native Shorts program coming up in that month. And then, Jojo Rabbit's coming out, another indigenous filmmaker. And, this is the beginning of our Oscar season, so it's going to start being busy. It's already started. Distributors start releasing bigger films, and the smaller independent films start trickling out. But there's a lot of stuff coming up. So circlecinema.org, and keep an eye on our social media.
You mentioned Oscar there,
Yeah.
and I understand this year West Studi is actually getting an
Yeah.
Oscar. I've seen several news outlets that say, well, he's the first Indian to ever get one. I said, no, he's not. And you ever hear of Buffy St. Marie and up where he belongs? But what do you guys think of the industry, the huge industry like that, finally taking notice of Wes's performances, his presence, and the kinds of standards and principles that he advocates? What do you think about that happening?
I think it's awesome that they're recognizing his work, especially for as long as he's been in the industry and as many strong roles as he's done, and like a lot of stuff, like especially like Heat and like Last Mohicans, or like earlier stuff like Powwow Highway, and like he's just he's a fantastic actor, and it's definitely well deserved. It's too bad it wasn't for one of those film roles that he been shaded in, but it's also part, not to speak badly about it, but it's also part of this kind of huge social movement that's going through LA and through the rest of the world right now, and trying to get more people of color into these positions of power, but also represent their work as well too. So it's it kind of feels to a certain degree that it's just all right, now it's time for us to recognize some brown people who are our top brown people. There's West Studi, which it is well deserved, but it's just like it's just a part of the flow in the world. But I'm kind of grateful for this movement as well too, because we wouldn't have the opportunities to make the films and be able to have entree into the Hollywood system without it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, they're in the Academy, which are the people that help pick, a lot of these bigger films that end up being the award-winning and the top 10 lists and all these things. Those are the films that are really making lots of money because of the promotion from the Oscars and the Academy. And I believe, isn't Bird Running Water now?
Yes.
Bird Running Water from an OU alum is now, and the native programmer for the Indigenous program at Sundance. He's an Academy voter now. So, I mean, I would say within the last 2 years, there's been a sharp turn of even films nominated, which is fantastic, because they all, before now, have always had the same recipe. It was Bradley Cooper and, the Weinsteins producing it was the recipe. But now with including some of these other people, and I think, I hope that it wasn't guilt from not selecting these films that were of diversity. But I think it's changing. I hope it's not the guilt, so it's something that continues on. But including people like Bird Running Waters, that's a good move.
I remember the Academy taking a real beating from being an all
hashtag.
an all white.
Me, I don't mind the guilt. So as long as I get more money taken my movie, like, be as guilty as you want. Give.
Well, Chuck, you mentioned a Native person now being part of that Academy. I understand there are 3, I believe.
In the Academy?
Yeah, including Tantu Cardinal and...
I think Heather Ray's the 3rd one.
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome. They're perhaps a small voice in a very large crowd, but at least they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, okay. Let me see, we only got a couple minutes here, and we'll have to wrap this one up, but anything on the horizon for the Circle Cinema that you want to let our listeners know about?
This is just something that we started doing recently, was which I thought was kind of cool, was a land acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, in our cinema, we run a slide of the land that we operate on in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to us to be in a part of the Native community, and to show films, and also like take our own responsibility and make that acknowledgement. So we run that slide, and we'll continue showing original Native stories as long as I'm there, and hopefully after.
Well, stick around for a while, please. And as you were sharing that, a couple things popped into my mind. Tulsa needs to be reminded this is all once Creek land. The Logoboja folks settled here. We've got the Council Oak ceremony coming up in a matter of days. invite everyone else to come down and remember that, this living touch link to our history. And a couple of us from Mvskoke Media were over at the Gathering Place just the other day doing a piece. They've got a diversity program coming up where they'll be essentially hosting a mini powwow kind of thing. And we want to know why and da-da-da. Whether or not they remembered that the land they're on was the Creek allotment also. And what do you do to acknowledge that? And they're quite pleased with that. So I think we've come a long way. Would you guys say that?
Oh, most definitely. And a long way to go.
Yeah. Every journey of, was it 10,000 miles? Begins with one step. Yeah. Okay, well, gentlemen, any last thoughts before we get on with what we got to do here?
Of course, come out to Fuckery on November 7th at Circle Cinema, and then November 8th we'll have the Empty Metal screening at the drive-in with a couple of short films. We'll be at Imaginative next Wednesday, so if you can come out to there, if you happen to find yourself in Toronto, and just follow me on Instagram at Black Horse Low, and there'll be more screenings coming up throughout the year and throughout the rest of this year.
All right, follow us on Circle Cinema through all the social media avenues. And thanks for having us on, Gary.
Yes, thank you so much, Gary.
It's a pleasure. It's kind of a nice change from our usual public service kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just trying my best not to cuss right now. So
well,
I did it with the title, I guess. So.
I think so. I think for our listeners with sensitive ears,
exactly.
It wasn't on purpose. We did this. Okay, well, let me get on. We have actually kind of a stack of community announcements here. First of all, it's October 1st through the 26th. The nation's youth services group is looking for new socks and other essential items for homeless youth and other hygiene items that they can use and can't always get a hold of. So if you're interested, they've got a list of things that you can donate, including some clothing for the weather, as I say, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes, that sort of thing, backpacks. Drop them off at Mvskoke Nation Youth Services here in Mulgee and call 549-2557 if you have some questions. Competitor to the Circle Cinema, almost. Movie night, Inside Out on the Mvskoke Creek Nation Council House lawn, which we are looking at just as we stare out the studio window. It's coming up at 6 p.m. on Saturday the 26th, Inside Out. So check it out. BYO blankets and chairs, so if you got powwow chairs and things, you might want to bring those along. Hot cocoa and popcorn are provided. That's MCN Behavioral Health Prevention, 758-1930. And, of course, as we mentioned, Council Oak Ceremony coming up 2 p.m. on the 26th of October. That's at the Creek Nation Council Oak Park at 1750 South Cheyenne in Tulsa. You might want to check that out. And then there are post activities, including a meal, which I do believe has fry bread and soft geese. You might want to check that one out. The Historic and Cultural Preservation is running that, 732-7733. And if you haven't got your flu shot, you might want to take advantage of the mobile flu clinic run by the Creek Nation Department of Health. Coming up on the 21st, their next appearance from 11 to 1 is in Okemah at the community center. Might want to stop by and get a free shot there, prevent a miserable winter, and take care of yourself. Latex paint swap coming up Saturday, October 19th, 800 Riverwalk Terrace over in Jinx. You can drop off paint from 9 to noon and shop used paint from 1 to 3. So drop it off and then buy it back later, maybe? I don't know. No oil-based paint, please. If you have questions, contact the folks at 918-584-0584. Okay, one more time. Raven Care Package Project, the care packages for college students. Well, you can be part of that program at the College of the Mvskoke Nation. Give them a whole ring at 918-549-2557. All right, I'm done. That's all I can do with it. We want to thank you all for listening and our guests for coming in today and sharing their wonderful opportunities and nice discussion about the films today. So I want to say, Mado Mabo Hedget Scott, Gary Fife, Jaho Jifkados. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.